I've always liked the design of Shulker boxes. I think they're so cool. So if you actually go and look at the sides and the top and the bottom of a Shulker box, it's actually a pretty cool pattern. So I was in the craft store looking for cubes and squares for this channel, and I came across this, and my first instinct was to paint something like a cow face or a pig face, and then I remembered the designs of the Shulkers. This is a home run, because any decor of any bathroom, you could just change the color of the Shulker box and you'd still be within game. But what's so neat about it is that it's such a subtle design that non-gamers are just gonna think it's kind of a cool piece, whereas your Minecraft friends are gonna come in and they're gonna smile. All right, let's go. The first thing with an off-the-shelf product like this is we're gonna sand it down so we can kind of smooth the edges and make a nice flat surface for painting. So I'm gonna start with a 220 grit, and then I'm gonna go to just one of these sanding blocks later for a final touch. Of course, I'll do that outside. But you wanna go over all the surfaces, be kind of gentle on the edges, but make sure you get them. And when the sanding's all done, I'm gonna throw a coat of primer on this. Now, you could, of course, just paint it with white acrylic paint. I'm gonna be lazy. This is gonna be faster. So I'm gonna paint all the different surfaces, and then I'll come back and start working on the grid. To make my paint by number art, I brought in a screenshot from the game, and then I just made pixels. I counted out about 16 across and 16 down for the top, and then I just went with the eyedropper, and pixel by pixel, I selected each of the colors. In some places, I was able to pretty quickly figure out a pattern, but not all. And in the end, I think I had like 29 colors. It was ridiculous. So the next step was to reduce the number of colors, and I put each color on a different layer, and finally added numbers for reference. My paint's all dry, but before we get on to the next step, I want to do a couple housekeeping details. First off, my unit has this cool slider, which is going to allow me to do the bottom of the Shulker box. I'm pretty excited about that. I already did a test piece just because I wanted to see what it was like to be painting these pieces before I started filming. And one of the things that I did is I made a scale from 2 through 10 to match my artwork here. And I didn't like how dark the 10 got. So I'm going to go with about the level 8. And when I mix up my paint today, I'm going to try that this is about as dark as it gets. The next piece is that these are not actually square. So if you're going to do this project, make sure you measure precisely. You can see I've written on here slider side because this is actually shorter than this side. With my first attempt, I used this brush, and I also used the idea that this is essentially a pixel wide, and so I just free-handed the top. You can see the effect it has and decide whether or not that's what you're looking for. I've decided I want to go ahead and do grid. So I got myself a hard lead pencil. This is a 4H level pencil, so it's not a number 2, it's actually harder than a number 2. Which is going to help because no matter how hard I press, it's going to end up with a much lighter line, which allows me when I try and do lighter lines to be much lighter. And I'm trying to get as light as possible because the number 2 is going to be extremely light, and I do not want to have to deal with the pencil marks after I'm done painting. From here on out, it's just basically a giant montage until I get to the point where I'm painting. Dagnabbit, my battery died halfway through my montage. Ugh. Okay, I'll have to put together a reenactment. Skirt, 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 skirt. Oh, this reminds me of the first time in design school when I had to do a gradient in 10 steps from pure white to pure black. Oh, the good times. Hopefully you enjoyed my reenactment, but here's where I am now. So this is a gradation from number 2 to number 10. And I have put them all into film canisters as storage. I picked these up from my 1-hour film place. They should work really well to keep the paint from drying out while I work on this project. I've got everything labeled. That's the grayscale. Let's get painting. An extra step I took was to erase the lines for any blocks of color. So you can see here that this whole field is going to be one color, and this whole field is going to be one color, and so it should speed up the painting process a little bit. I'm finally to the point of painting. I'm so excited. I've been wanting to work on this project for so long. I think that the number 2 through probably 4 paint colors are going to show up on camera just horribly. So for the time lapse, I'm going to skip ahead to either 4 or 5 and then just kind of go from there. Colors 2 through 4 are on the box, and this is what it's looking like so far. So you can definitely see where I've got the 2 and 4 acrylic versus the original color of white. I'm going to go back and paint this white. I put some blue tape down to protect it, and then I realized that the acrylic paint's actually kind of thick. So a little trick I'm going to do is to just take my knife here and just scrape it across, and that's going to reduce that sharp edge. I might also take a little bit of paint off here, but I'm not worried about that because I can put that back in. But the sharp edges was just a bit too much. We are going to move on to number 5. The number 5 is going to really start to pull this together because there's so much of it and it's in a big giant checkerboard pattern. So I'm going to speed up my painting a little bit while I chat. But honestly, you guys don't have to listen to me chat, and you don't have to watch me paint. You can jump ahead of all this stuff. And if you do, and I watch my analytics, guess what? I'll learn something. I'll learn that you guys don't want to listen to me talk and don't want to watch me paint. Won't hurt my feelings. Now you may be wondering why I'm trying to stick within the lines still so early in the game. And the reason is there's things like number 2s, and I could have just easily painted right over them in a messy fashion if I wasn't doing this. The other reason is eventually I'm going to get to the darker colors. And by practicing, I'm basically practicing for being able to paint really well in between the lines later. So here's what I've learned so far. Number 1, get good paint. I started this project with some just cheap acrylic paint that I had left over from my Girls Scout years. Oof, it was terrible. I had to throw it out. Acrylic paint dries pretty quick, but it was drying almost too quick. And then it would kind of goober up and get a little bit like I was painting with sand. So I erased everything, sanded everything off, went to the store and got some good art paint. Another thing I learned, which I guess it's maybe not learning, it's remembering, it's that I never really painted before. Painting was kind of my mom and my sister's thing. They did a lot of painting. I never really did painting. Oh my gosh, hold on. I gotta show you my own painting. This is when I was 6. So there you go. That may have been the last time I did real painting. I'm more of a sculpture person. I think that's how I ended up in design school versus fine art school. Just saying. Oh boy, the painting is all done. That was very, very fun to do. And you can see that it is a very, very nice light grayscale. You can see the spiral on the bottom, and this is exactly the grayscale that I wanted. So it's very light, but each of the colors is distinct all the way from 3 all the way down to the 10 color. So it ends up being very, very cool. And the spiral on the bottom all the way to the top pieces. Oh, hey buddy, I guess you're still in there. Well, let's get it loaded with tissues. Oh, you're pretty cute. It's January, so I've made a trip to the end to get some storage boxes. Ow! Hey, I'm Mary Poppins. I'm Robin Hood. I'm Mary Robin Poppins Hood. Okay, first thing is to get all the shulkers. Ooh, here's a really easy one. I'm gonna need your shell, buddy, so I can make myself some storage boxes. They're amazing for organization. Just ask anyone who plays Minecraft. All right, now to go get some wings.